All right. Welcome, everybody, to a live edition of the Hoops Rehab Show. How you doing, Eric?
Very good. Pretty good. How's it going with you?
Just a little bit of Lakers drama in the air right now with that article coming out today, which we are going to get into. So a little surprising there. What'd you think?
Yeah, if there isn't already enough drama with the Lakers during an NBA season, with just the ebbs and flows of just the wins and the losses of a Lakers year, it could never outdo ourselves, with this franchise. And obviously, we know about that article that dropped earlier today, and so can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, definitely. But as always, everybody, I am the Game Injury Doc, a.k.a. Dr. Evan Jeffries. On my right is Eric B. Mack. We are the host of the Hoops Rehab Show. You can find us at our YouTube page, the Hoops Rehab Show. Please hit that subscribe button if you are watching live right now, or if you're listening to the pod the next day. You can also find us on our Instagram, the Hoops Rehab Show. And as always, after this episode, we will be uploading a pod that will drop in the morning. So please hit that subscribe button there, follow, like, and comment on the pod. And don't forget the auto download too, because a lot of people forget that it will just automatically download for you. But Eric, let's get into all the stuff today. We got a big show tonight. We're going to be talking about some injury updates as well, talking about the Lakers, obviously, and then kind of just some surprises of the NBA the first half of the season, since we're pretty much there. But we'll start with some other stuff that happened last night, and that was Jimmy Butler going down, or actually the other night. I'm sorry, we weren't on last night, but going down with the ACL tear. He's 36 years old, going to turn 37 by the time he would come back next season. What were your thoughts when that happened immediately? And man, what is going to go on with the Warriors season now?
I guess my first thought, I know the Warriors are in the play-in, and I always thought that they were just going to hover around that, and they were going to be dangerous come playoff time, kind of like last year, where you see them the last maybe 8 to 10 games of the year. Like, oh man, here we go again. And it happened last year. And obviously Steph Curry got injured. I think it was hamstring, and that really changed things. But honestly, now with this, I mean, we saw what the Warriors were last season before getting Butler, very much a 500 team. And he really turned that team around. And I must say I think that's it, for them in terms of being a contender or maybe a team that will win a couple rounds. I think that injury is that big. And I know it's a team with Steph Curry, but Jimmy Butler was the difference maker. And it was very obvious with how they did with him and how they did without him last year. Tough blow for sure. It's for him as well, right? He's older. I think I had seen you post or something that it was like the oldest NBA player to have a tear or something,
he's
up there,
one of the oldest players. I believe there's another player. I'll have to get the exact person on that that tore his ACL at a later age. Yeah, I think it was like around 38. But normally, you don't see too many ACL tears after, I would say, probably 35, 36 age normally. So it's kind of rare to kind of see in this league. And it's really unfortunate because you got, somebody like Jimmy going to be coming back at 37 after ACL tear. We don't really know how that's going to look. You got Kyrie, who's going to be coming back after ACL tear, and he's up in his 30s as well. So, we just had NBA reporter Mark Medina on last episode to talk about the uptick in NBA injuries, especially early on in the season. And, it was a lot of the soft tissue injuries that we were talking about, but then now you have these more catastrophic injuries, the ACLs, the Achilles, and just really happening to these players at an older age. But again, another point that he made is that we have a league now that is just, players are playing a lot longer than they used to in the 80s and 90s. So you got players in their 14, 15, 16 season still able to play at like a high level. And that is the risk of playing, right? And it's a fast-paced sport now. The style of play has changed, a lot of different misdirection and things like that on the court. So it sucks to see. And my question to you is, there was a guy named Jonathan Kuminga, who requested a trade a couple days ago, essentially. And now you lose Jimmy Butler to the season. Is there any way that you see Kuminga staying on the Warriors, especially after you heard what Steve Kerr said about him? And then also, did you hear what Mike Dunleavy said as well?
I did not hear what Mike Dunleavy said, but I know you spoke, but maybe we'll get into that in a second, or you can refresh my memory. But I think they have to come up with some kind of full court press, no pun intended, to try to turn around that relationship. From what I hear just around the league, and from Jonathan Kuminga's camp, that really it still holds firm that he wants to get traded, and he's probably felt like that that ship has sailed. It's crazy to me that it just hasn't worked out and they haven't found a way to get him on the floor. I guess for various reasons, but now with Jimmy, if you lose both of them, obviously they should be getting something back, obviously, if they trade Kuminga. But losing both of them, I don't know. They got to try their hardest. I just don't know if it's possible. Now, does that mean that he's going to stay with the team for the rest of the season? Perhaps. He still may be there, and maybe that'll be worked out in the offseason. I would say that's the only chance they have is, hey, we're going to trade you. That's the goal. But we're going to need to do it in the offseason. We got to just have you play this year and try to ride this out. I would say that's the only kind of hope that they have. What about you? And what did Dunleavy say?
Yeah, so essentially Mike Dunleavy came out and said, they asked him, what are your thoughts on Kuminga demanding a trade? He's like, well, there's got to be one, you have to demand a trade, but there also has to be demand to be traded.
Gotcha.
So to me, that was a slight, obviously. And Mike Dunleavy Jr. and also Steve Kerr have been I feel like I don't know how the inner workings of the locker room is, but I feel like they have almost ruined this young man's confidence. And, from the point where, the point where like you just tell a player, we're not going to play you for the next 10 rounds. You're out of the rotation. We're not playing you at all because you just don't fit with Jimmy, Steph, and Draymond. Like that's essentially what they told him. And then you're like, okay, we're not going to let you leave because you're restricted free agent. And it's kind of like, he can't be willing to leave on the team because they're not going to be able to match what the Warriors are going to do as well. So I think they've just strung onto this, and I just want to get this over with. It shouldn't matter if Jimmy Butler went down with the injury. You can't just say, all right, Kuminga, now we need you and we need you to play. I think they just need to wash their hands with this. For them, it didn't work out. And for him personally, I don't know if he can go back onto this team that doesn't really want him and be able to play to his full capabilities. So I would I would want him traded. I just don't see it a good thing for him to keep staying just because of injury.
Yeah, I guess you could say the worst thing could happen that he can all of a sudden start balling out. And then, I don't know. I guess not worst thing. It's obviously a really good thing for him, and maybe that even good for the Warriors because maybe that could up the ante in terms of a trade partner. So I guess, but it would just stir the pot a little bit, make things maybe even allow the Warriors to stretch it out even further, right? And so, yeah, it's a good point. I guess just thinking from a having talent perspective, it's you don't want people just walking out. But if they valued him, they would have already played him more, and they wouldn't have drawn this out, and they wouldn't have signed him as a restricted free agent. It's just weird. It's just they have this asset and they know that it's potentially a gem. So they don't want to just let it go, but they don't want anybody else to have it. It's just weird. It's I don't know how else to put it. And you're right. It's probably hurt his confidence. I'm assuming now other teams are wait, let's kind of open the hood of the car and kind of check and see what's going on over there. Because maybe there's something that we don't know. And so that would then maybe not make us want to trade for him. And so maybe that's what Mike Dunleavy is talking about. But yeah, good point. It could be that it is just time to just end this and trade him somewhere and see if he can make a difference elsewhere.
Yeah, and if you're this young man Kuminga, like, I would just advise him, go out there and ball your ass off, right?
Yeah,
just go out there and play ball. Don't think about anything. Don't think about the negativity, and just show your worth right now. You got 2 weeks before the trade deadline. Hopefully show your worth and be on a team that really wants you. And I think that's got to be his mindset going forward. If he stays on the team after this, the same thing. Like, what you do right now is going to be your resume for the offseason. If you kind of go back and say, I'm going to have an attitude and I don't really want to play, teams are going to see that and they're not going to really want to trade for you. So I just expect him to kind of go out like he did the other night, and he had 20 plus in 20 minutes or something like that. So obviously the young man can score in bunches. I think he just needs to be given the ability to kind of do that. Now, I did kind of start thinking, if they are going to trade him, you have Jimmy, who has an interesting contract because he still has another year on it.
Yeah.
Do you foresee for some way there would be a package of Kuminga and Butler to a team, or like in some sort of three-way kind of trade that can be doable for the Warriors? Because obviously they're in a must-win now mode, right? They're not really building for the future. They got Steph and Draymond who are kind of clinging on to that Warrior hope. I know somebody in LA once thought about maybe playing with Steph. Think there's any possibility of LeBron going over to the Warriors at this point?
Oh, yeah, that definitely opens up a lot. I think because of LeBron's no trade clause, that there was just a very select, if it's a big if, huge if, I would be shocked. But if there was somewhere that he would agree to go to, I think that would be one of the few spots, or maybe one of the only two other spots, 2 or 3, I guess. And so with Butler there, I believe that there was no chance. Highly unlikely now, but if you compare the two situations before injury, pre and post injury of Butler, I'd say there's definitely a chance. If LeBron were to get traded, it would be there. In terms of the package, and sorry, also just to one last point about Kuminga, I remember in last year in the playoffs, I mean, he didn't play, and then all of a sudden he started playing when I believe Steph Curry got injured, and he played well, right? He started getting minutes, played pretty well. So that's another kind of something that he has in his back pocket. But anyways, I think it makes things a little tough because obviously Jimmy Butler you'd trade for him and you'd have him, and for this year, obviously he's not going to play. He's probably going to miss most of next season, right? Or a half a season, give or take, depending on things. And so I don't know, is that something you're willing to kind of take on, of probably just half a season of a guy coming back from an ACL injury? And I don't think you would probably make that trade depending on him. It would be some of the other things that you would get. But for a team like the Lakers, it would have still aligned them for that 27 summer, where them and the Clippers and a couple other teams are looking to kind of clear space for that summer. So it would still work out there.
Yeah, I think it more in summertime that trade could happen, even though LeBron wouldn't technically be signed with Lakers, but maybe they would work out some sort of sign and trade that makes it work there, which gives the Lakers some flexibility for that 27 season. Still gives them that cap space, and then just takes on a player that could technically be a veteran on the team. I just don't like him coming off of ACL at 37 and what you're going to get. I know he's going to work his butt off to be back. I just don't really want to get in business with another 37, 38 plus guy. And his name is not LeBron James, right? So there's only one of those guys out there, and he's shown that he can play for many seasons like that. but I just don't know. He's never had a crazy season-long injury like what Jimmy Butler is going through right now as well. So I think that makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah, it would allow the Lakers to kind of be able to use LeBron's like cap kind of hit or space. Because if he just say retires, like it's not like, oh, he gets paid 50 million, so you could just give that to someone else. Like that's just not the way it works, right? It's because he's under contract with the team with like the Burr rule and whatever all that stuff is, where you can get close to the cap or over the cap with when you're paying your own players. So I think that's the only thing that it would do. But it is interesting to think. It probably won't happen in the trade deadline, but there was only, like I mentioned earlier, a couple situations where you felt if LeBron was going to come back next year, it was either going to be kind of at a discount with the Lakers, which probably won't happen, or somewhere else. And it does open the door. So we'll see though. Obviously a long way to go to figure out what's going to happen there.
Yeah, 100%. But that leads to our next topic, Eric.
The big topic.
I would say groundbreaking article that was released this morning by Baxter Holmes on ESPN about the Lakers and the drama and the infighting that kind of went on prior to the Lakers sale, obviously. It got into the life of Jerry Buss and kind of what happened after Jerry Buss, and then just kind of post-sale as well, because there's a lot of drama that happened after that. When you kind of woke up and you heard this stuff and heard the news and read the article, what were your initial thoughts on this? And talk about timing. I mean, yeah, of course we got to do it right before the trade deadline, right?
Yeah, I mean, this conversation can go so many directions, and we'll try to tackle a few of them. But I guess his first thought was kind of like, wow, like, so you kind of have a succession plan, father, passes away, and then you get 6 kids, right? And when you got 6 kids to take over, something like a professional franchise where, it's not some kind of store or real estate or things like that, where you're not as much in the limelight. And it's like a franchise and it's the Lakers, where if you do really good, you just, life's got to be great. But once you start to kind of not do that great, things could turn quick. And so, yeah, like I said, you had the 6 siblings, and I think it was also, you throw in the wrinkle of 2 of them are a lot younger than the other 4, right? I think it's about 30 something years. And so, I mean, now I think we always knew it, but now that we're seeing that it truly was kind of like family drama, so to speak, as Jeannie put it when she made a comment, I think it's interesting that she, according to the article, right, that she kind of teamed up with the younger siblings to kind of get rid of the older siblings, in terms of like running the show for the Lakers. And then now it was like a little bit opposite of her teaming up with the older siblings to perhaps sell the team. And they needed to get a majority vote, 4-2. And so that took some time, and then it happened. So there's that. Obviously, there's the things with LeBron, which I know you're going to get into. But I guess we have to add that the folks that got him this information apparently were not, anybody like that we know of from the Lakers, because they denied the interview along with Jeannie Buss. But I would say it was definitely did not make her look good. That's for sure.
Yeah, the number one thing I got out of the article was Jeannie does not look good. And I feel that Jeannie Buss has always been beloved by the Laker fans, right? Yeah. Like we've always kind of envisioned her as the next in line from Jerry Buss, I just felt like she was the person that would be most representable to be a Lakers owner, right? Like when you look at all the siblings, and wow, it looked like she was able to understand how to get her older siblings and to take advantage of those opportunities, and then get her younger siblings to take advantage of opportunities that she needs, and all to negotiate a deal, right? And I thought some interesting things is like stuff that we never heard, right? Like when the Lakers were, somebody offered to buy the Lakers like for $1 billion. And, Jerry Buss would go to his kids and say, well, how do you feel about this situation? And if we sold, what would you do with that money? And every time they would always answer, we would buy the Lakers.
Buy the Lakers.
Right?
So there you go.
Right. So they were always wanting to be Laker owners, always wanting that situation. So I thought that was kind of cool because they wanted to keep it in the family. Now, where it got interesting is when the money kind of went up, right? Like the value of the team and value of all franchises in sports went up to these billions and billions of dollars, right? So then it becomes actually, all right, maybe we're going to actually make some money here. And I found it just, I don't know if you heard this, but like the whole where she was able to negotiate a deal for the inner circle, the Ramby, Kurt Rambis and his wife and all this stuff, and something they negotiated $8 million for Kurt Rambis, and $24 million for his wife, and $824 for Kobe. I don't know if that's true, right? But it's in the article, and Baxter Holmes talks about it, and like to me that is just weird. That you would make it that different. They're getting $32 million regardless because they're married, but like, why does that have to be the Kobe kind of symbol with that? I thought that was kind of strange.
Not appropriate.
I think the one thing that really made Jeanie Buss not look good is what she said to the younger Buss brother when they were on the phone, and she essentially said that her mom and dad agreed, like, that he would never ever have another kid, right? Because did you actually know that they had another kid prior that was adopted?
Yeah, no, I didn't know until
right?
reading
so
that.
I actually never knew that, right? So, but I guess they made this agreement like he would never have a kid without her, right? Yeah. Obviously, they got divorced, and he decided to have kids essentially almost, 25, 30 years later, which has 2 more sons. But Jeanie basically said, you guys essentially shouldn't be here, is what he said. And that right there, I mean, if that's true, that is some hurtful stuff. I think, she probably could have said it out of spite, been upset. But at the same time, when you take it to that level, when that's your own brother and you're saying that, you essentially shouldn't be here because of what my mom agreed to, is to me, that's pretty low. Yeah,
no, very, very low, especially when I was kind of reading that the like Jerry Buss designed like a quote unquote like last man standing type of family trust, right, to like avoid disputes. And so when you have such a big gap between siblings, it just creates like a lot of just probably questions and animosity and what ifs, and there's obviously the basketball side of it. And I think when Mark Walters became, I guess, minority owner, I mean, it should have been known, like, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? There's like these little things that happen, and you're like, you look back and you're like, man, that process was starting. Now, when the Boston Celtics were sold for $6 billion, I think it really changed the game. It made like, oh wow, and obviously Boston's a big time franchise, but just everything that is attached with the Lakers, and it's an entity, and so there was just a lot to it, and that was very obvious. And so, from the basketball side of things, I mean, the Lakers had such great success, under Dr. Buss. I think I read in his 34 years, they missed the playoffs twice. The 5 years after he passed, before LeBron got there, I actually wrote it down. They were 126 and 284. So 126 wins, 284 losses.
Wow.
No playoff berths in those 5 seasons. And so, it's about like, there's that too, right? And so that obviously takes us to the LeBron part of it, which was very interesting too.
Yeah, and before I get started on that, if you guys are in the live on YouTube or Twitter, go ahead and jump in those comments and just let us know how you feel about this whole Lakers situation. We'll kind of get to them towards the end of the show.
Yes, sir.
Now, the LeBron piece was heavy, right? Because he's currently still part of this team, right? This is not like an article post LeBron. There was already that feeling of, Luka coming into this team, them giving the franchise to Luka. You've heard the rumblings all throughout the offseason with Rich Paul saying, wants to be on a championship contender, doesn't know where they're going to be. And then you kind of find and hear this article, right?
Yeah.
So to me, from the outside, you thought Jeanie Buss and LeBron were pretty much neck and neck, tied at the hip, right? And I think the big thing that large loom like with LeBron is just the Rich Paul clutch and all that stuff, where they feel like they took over this team, right? They traded for Anthony Davis, right? They kind of gave him the keys, and then he goes out and says, I'm basically the savior of the Lakers, which Jeanie Buss didn't like, because she's like, we're a franchise that has been the best, one of the best in the league, and we don't need to be saved. You should be grateful essentially for being here. So I think that kind of, maybe they started off on the wrong foot when it came to that. And then obviously we always joked about it. We talked about it for the first couple of years, is basically Clutch is running the Lakers. We had Clutch players every 20 seconds on the bench, right? Yeah, this player. You're always like, oh, Clutch is going to be on this roster. And they've started to separate from that. Obviously with the Luka trade was the big domino that fell, trading Anthony Davis out. And I think LeBron has had to sit back and realize that, this is not necessarily his team. I found it interesting that she didn't feel he was grateful enough for when they drafted Bronny James. And it's interesting because we don't know how LeBron really feels about them drafting him. Obviously, he loved to play with his son, but was it something that, like, what is he supposed to do? Go out there and write her a letter, right? Like, is he supposed to come into her office and say, thank you so much for drafting my son? Because he's kind of screwed either way. If he goes in there and starts, oh, thank you, Jeanie, so much. You've saved my, you drafted my son. Now I can play with him. That's not real. That's not reality. He's not going to say that. Yeah. I mean, we did already kind of see what he said. He was happy, excited to be able to play with his son. That means he's grateful. What do you mean he's not grateful? Of course he was grateful for that, right? So I don't know how much the truth is on that or how she felt about it, but maybe she just wanted to hear something from him a little more than what she actually heard from him.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, like, I don't hate to say it, but I know for some folks they're not going to like it. And the LeBron years have been up and down. Will admit it, but she has commented since. But if she is upset about it, I mean, let's be honest, LeBron did save the Lakers. I mean, I just told you what they were. What did I say? 5 years, 126 and 284. In what world would a superstar want to come and join that, right? And I do understand as well that it is Los Angeles. There was a business decision. It was a great place to be in terms of, like, where he would want to live with his family and yada yada yada. I get all that, but I mean, like what was going to happen if he didn't come? I mean, right? I mean, we had that young core, and I guess you never know, but it just didn't. To me, it wasn't working out.
Young core,
I know. Yeah, I know exactly.
Look, Eric. LeBron's first year, he had the Lakers. What were they? 20-14 on Christmas Day when he tore his groin, tore his adductor.
I think
he had a team of Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram. Who else was on that team at the time? D'Lo? Was D'Lo still there? Yeah, first year. Yeah, D'Lo was still. Yeah, Kuzma.
No, not D'Lo, right? No,
D'Lo was gone.
Yeah, Kuzma.
But, I mean, he had a young team that
Josh Hart was there. No, Josh Hart was there because he was traded for it.
He had a young team that are talented, and all those players have been proven to be good players in this league. But they were awful the year before, right? So then he came in there and had him pretty much top 5 in the West at the time. And if he didn't tear his adductor, he didn't tear his groin, who knows where that team would have actually ended up, right? They could have made the playoffs and had something going on that year. And that was him coming off of 8 straight finals, right? So he came off of 8 straight finals and came onto that team, got injured, and that's why they went down. next year won a championship with Anthony Davis, right? That's how hot LeBron was going into the seasons with the Lakers. 8 straight finals. Nobody's going to do that again. Like, I mean, we might see it in the next 100 years at some point. There might be some player that does it, but that's something that's going to be one of those like, oh, Bill Russell, the Celtics stats.
Yeah.
The
with the 8 straight finals.
Oh, this team went to 8. Even a team, just in general, I mean, he took 2 different teams, but a team going to 4 straight finals is ridiculous, right? So we're not going to really see that. And so I thought it was kind of surprising and what Jeanie was kind of saying. And to me, it's terrible timing. Obviously, we already had drama. The Lakers have been losing until they won last night. And then there's a trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it, but we didn't. I'm sorry, I'm reading it right now. So Jeanie Buss did make a statement today to The Athletic. She says, it's really not right, given all the great things LeBron has done for the Lakers. This has to be that he has to be pulled into my family drama, which is funny that she is admitting about the family drama. And then Jeanie Buss said, to say that it wasn't appreciated is just not true and completely unfair to him. So, obviously it's a little he say, she say at this point. And so maybe there were times that there were frustrations and, hey, I get it. Like since the championship year, it's been tough. I mean, obviously they made a little run to the Western Conference Finals one year. There was one year that he encouraged the Lakers to get Russell Westbrook, which obviously turned out terrible. And there's been a couple of seasons of just like you mentioned, the injuries of the year before they won the chip and then the year after in particular. And so injuries are part of the game and it is what it is. But yes, it's, we have to give her that credit that she did come out and say that. But I do feel that information that Baxter, brought out in an article, I'm sure it had to come from somewhere, but it's last point as far as this, as far as the LeBron things go. And I like whether if it's, a franchise kind of being sold or a veteran player leaving or a dynasty ending, it really truly never ends gracefully. Look at Shaq and Kobe, even the Bulls 98, that was just crazy with the GM and LeBron, Michael Jordan retiring, right?
Yeah, that was crazy.
With the Warriors with Thompson, right? Klay Thompson, getting traded and kind of just, I don't know. It barely ever ends gracefully. And I think that's what's happening now with like the Buss family and the Lakers and then LeBron and the Lakers too, unfortunately.
And my last point, Eric, is the crazy thing about this is Jeanie Buss is still the governor of the Lakers right now. Like literally, this is the article that came out. It's not like she's not part of the Lakers. She's still freaking governor of the Lakers. And we hear this article, how she's talking about LeBron and how she's talking about the rest of the team, the rest of the franchise. To me, that was the most surprising thing that this article was able to get out like that. Because now we're just all, now we got to deal with that. And Luka's like, man, I just signed an extension. I'm here trying to get this team to the finals, and we got to deal with this drama, right? So it's part of being in LA. It's part of being in La La Land, but I just don't like the timing of it.
Now, question about that. Does this article a sign of that's going to be pushed along a little quicker, her exiting?
Oh, yeah. This summer.
Or do you... Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What?
I remember hearing a couple years and stuff. Now she's gone this summer. Mark my word, Eric. We will come on this show, and when we hear that Jeanie is stepping aside from governor and he brings in all his Dodgers people to run this show, I think there's going to be, you're not going to have Rob Pelinka doing the president and GM of this team. It's not going to happen. They did not spend $10 billion to have Rob Pelinka still running the show like it's a mom and pop shop. That will not happen. So I think Rob will be there. I think he's done a great job as a GM. He's gotten Luka. He's gotten AD. Like there's things that he makes great trades. So I think he'll be in that president type of role if that's what he wants, unless he just doesn't want to be in that role anymore. And then somebody will come in the GM and they'll bring in more analytics and things like that. And they'll have a new governor to run this team. I just don't see it. I don't foresee it going past this season at this point.
Yeah. I mean, if Mark Walter, if there's anything that's going to derail kind of the trajectory of this franchise the next few years and this being part of it, I mean, the easy way, it's obviously the Buss family. It'll never be forgotten what they did for the Lakers, but it might be just best for both parties to part ways. And you heard it here this summer. That's it.
2026.
Just like that.
All right, Eric. Let's get into some actually pretty good news. We got a little update on Austin Reaves. Let's see. He was injured on Christmas Day or re-aggravated that calf, so caused the grade 2 strain there. And he was supposed to be reevaluated in 4 weeks, which would be the 25th. We got some news a couple days ago that he's been progressing well and will likely return on this 8-game road trip, which would be, I mean, the Lakers need him back. They need another scorer. They need that third scorer consistently. So that puts him roughly probably by the time he returns, which is 5 weeks, right? I thought he'd be anywhere between 5 to 6 weeks because he's going to lease once you've gone past that 4 weeks. He likely would need a week of just kind of ramping up, maybe getting some practices in and things like that, see how his body actually feels. So likely he returns about that 5-week period in between 5 and 6. I think he'll be on a heavy minute restriction. I would be shocked if the Lakers don't do what they did they don't do what the Spurs did with Wemby.
Yeah.
Which, obviously Spurs have a great medical team. They understand what they need to be doing. I think he's going to have to be on that restriction where he's coming off the bench for a little bit, right? He's playing 20 minutes, bumping up to 22, bumping up to 24, and kind of staying in that range for a week or two. And then finally getting to a point where he can actually play those 30-plus minutes and be returned to being a starter. So I foresee him at least when he does come back for the 5 or 6 games or so, coming off the bench and playing limited minutes. Eric, what do you see?
Yeah, it's great news. So, I was looking at it, like one school of thought was having him just make sure that he's okay and maybe getting through the All-Star break where he can buy another week. But looking at things, that's still 12 games away, the All-Star break. So that's a big 12 games. And so you don't want to just, if he's ready to go, then do it. Have him come back, like you said, maybe limited minutes, maybe off the bench, where if he comes back for a handful of games, hopefully they're spread out a little bit, which I'm sure they're probably not, but maybe obviously be cautious if there's a back-to-back, something like that. And then you have that week off, and then you come back for the stretch run of, at that point, 30 more games with hopefully a healthy Austin Reaves. Because as you mentioned, I mean, we could just tell that they do need him. This stretch in January, which they played a lot of teams under 500, hasn't gone great, and so they're staying afloat though. They're back into the top 6 at least, and we know that is one win or one loss can put you in or out of there. But that being said, yeah, it's crucial that he gets back, but it's even more crucial that he doesn't get back and then goes out again, right? And so I'm sure they're going to keep an eye on that and make sure he comes back when he's as close to 100% as possible.
For sure. The big question, Eric, is when he comes back, what uniform will he be wearing?
Reaves?
Yeah. He's going to be wearing a Lakers uniform?
I mean, we talked about it. Like, when he got injured, have we seen Austin Reaves in his last time in a Laker jersey? And so it would be a surprise, right? It kind of listening to what's his name, Windhorst today earlier on ESPN 710. He seems to kind of think like it's just, Austin. They're going to re-sign Austin Reaves, and they're going to go with Luka and Austin Reaves and try to build around those guys. Doesn't mean what he says is the gospel, obviously, but most likely he'll still be there in the purple and gold.
Yeah, I mean, I heard Giannis talking the other day.
Yeah, that's all.
I don't know if you heard that. Like when they asked him about his feelings on the trade deadline, and will you still be a Buck and all that stuff? We'll see. That's what he said. That's what you got going on in that Bucks locker room, and
we'll see.
I don't know if you saw the score in the game tonight against OKC, Eric.
Whooping tonight? Yeah, I thought I saw that. Let's go to it. Yeah. Oh, it's closer than I thought. They lost by 20. Interesting.
I was like, wait a second, did I miss it? Because I was like, did they actually come back? But it's not looking good in Milwaukee. They got to figure that one out.
Yeah, I think I truly see that wherever he goes to, it's going to be kind of like a rental situation. Either it's going to be a year and a half of Giannis or a year, kind of like Kawhi with Toronto. And so that's where perhaps it'll be, but obviously, the Bucks are going to try to get the most they can for him. And so that's what makes it interesting with, OKC having a bunch of those picks and whatnot too.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So last little topic before we get on out of here is what, since we were basically at the first half of the season and we're about to start the second half of the season, what have been the main surprises for you in the NBA so far in this first half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, usually like the All-Star break is obviously like the unofficial first half, start of the second half. But I mean, nowadays it's with the All-Star game being so late into February, like I said, you usually just have about 30 games coming out of it. So we are at the halfway point. In terms of I guess I'll start with team surprises. I got to start with in the East. And I thought they would be good, but Detroit just really having a stranglehold on the 1 seed. I think that's a huge surprise to me. I saw them probably getting a top 4 or 5 for sure. And that wouldn't have surprised me if they got maybe a 2 or 3 and kind of battling for a home court for a round or two. But yeah, them right at the top. And then on the west side, the West Coast, in the West, sorry, Phoenix and San Antonio. Those are 2 teams that I had some kind of thoughts that they would be pretty decent, but I was thinking playing and maybe borderline trying to get a playoff spot. But San Antonio has really solidified themselves. I know it's getting very close, obviously from 2 to 7 now is 3 games in the loss column. It can go either way. But I think in terms of a pleasant surprise is for sure Phoenix. I again thought they'd be decent, but I'm sure most had them completely out of the playoffs and playing. So in terms of from a team perspective or team's perspective, that's the few surprises for me.
Yeah, I'm right along there with San Antonio and Detroit, just like Detroit being so dominant in the East right now. But another, for me, a team that I just didn't really think about, didn't really talk about, didn't even have them on my radar is just Toronto, just being really good and talented. Obviously, they have some young talent with Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and RJ Barrett quickly, things like that. So there was some talent there. I just didn't know too much about their coach and whether or not how well he can coach. And he's doing a hell of a job over there. He's motivating his team. They seem to love to play for him. So I love what Toronto's doing in there. And for them to get a top 6 seed in the East, I think would be a pretty big shock, and not be in the play-on would be pretty cool for them. And then, the West is just San Antonio. We had them on more of the fringe, more of the play-in. And for them being so good this early, they're starting to remind me of how OKC was when they were kind of growing up and becoming a really good team. So I like them a lot. I know we're doing surprises, but I guess a surprise could just be a disappointment too, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what about the other side of things?
There are 2 teams that I'm just utterly disappointed in. One, I'm just going to go say it, the New York Knicks.
I know you're good.
I'm going to tell you something right now. This team wants to win a championship, or you would think they want to, right? They got to Game 7 against Indiana, and they let Indiana beat them, right? Tyrese was obviously is playing out of his mind. He had a great run. And then you go fire Tim Tebow. Thibodeau, right?
But
And you're like, okay, you're going to get somebody big, maybe Mike Malone, right? You don't get somebody like that. You go hire Mike.
Didn't they interview the world too?
Interview the world. Oh, maybe you do a surprise hire, right? South Carolina's woman coach. Don Staley, right? Like you're like, oh, that would be cool, like something unique. No. You hire Mike Brown, Eric. And no disrespect to Mike Brown. I love actually the way he coaches. I love how he motivates his team. But I don't know what it is. Some reason every team there's a disconnect and they lose something.
They fizzle
from him.
For sure.
They start to fizzle, like his offensive fizzles, or a player gets upset at how they talk to him. Like right now, that's Cat. Cat is upset about his usage on the team, right? Because Mike Brown says, the beginning of the season, Cat said, I don't know where I'm supposed to be, essentially, or my role on this team. You're supposed to be the top. You and Jalen Brunson are supposed to be the top 2 players on that team. You don't know your role, right? So there's something going on there, and they're 2-9 in the last 11 games, and to me that's just disappointing because the East is not that good right now.
Yeah, no, I mean if there was a season, and it's still obviously a half a season to go in the playoffs, but you would think there would be the team to kind of take that Eastern Conference, and at least get they're obviously up there in the seeds, but you would think they would have run away with a 1 or 2 seed. And so we talked about it with Mark Medina. Obviously Boston is another huge surprise.
Sure.
Surprise in terms of, we know they're a real good franchise. They just do things well, and you had to figure they were going to overachieve a bit, but they're like even more than overachieving. But yeah, I think Knicks are one. I would say Cleveland is another disappointing team. Another team that was first in the East last year, and you would think with it being wide open with Jason Tatum's injury that they would have had a better season so far. Anybody in the West on the downside? Obviously, there was the Clippers. They've been playing a lot better. Dallas, right?
Yeah. To me, it's a team that's just looked the same over the last 3 or 4 years, Eric. That's the Warriors. They're clinging on to this old Warriors team, clinging on to the good old days, the glory days, and they're essentially just a play-in team, right? And I think at some point, I know Steph wants to just ride it out and kind of be a Warrior for life, but if it's going to look like this, he's going to have to consider, should I finish my career somewhere else at this point? Because I don't think they can get this team where it needs to be unless there's a massive thing that happens, like say a Giannis, right? If like somehow they're figuring out a way to be able to trade for somebody like that, then that's different. But as of the way the team is constructed right now, I just don't think they're going to be able to win anything in the next couple of years, especially how good all the teams in the West are.
Yeah, but then obviously with the Jimmy Butler injury, that makes it that much harder.
Yeah.
And so, when you live in the play-in, I think we've learned that you're sure you may have a kind of a successful run and may be able to win a round or two, but you got to be a top seed. And we talked about that so many times last year, that you got to be a top seed to really be a contender. And so, that's another team that's has been a disappointment.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll see how the second half goes for all teams. Yeah. I mean, I think the Lakers are, staying around that 10 games above 500, which they need to do. I think getting Austin Reaves back is going to be huge for them, and hopefully they can start to close that gap and be a top 3 seed in this West, right? Like they need to be, because I don't know if everybody knows that stat, Eric. Are we going to start using that stat again?
Definitely the last like month or so, because I know last year it was 76 out of 78, and then it turned into 77 out of 79 now. And so I know it got to a game 7, and that could have gone either way, but at the end of the day, there was a top seed that won it, and
got to be a top 3 seed.
Yep. And in terms of the Lakers, I think they're on pace for 50 wins, 50-32, which they were last year. That's that exact record, and so they're going to have to get that record to definitely get a top 3 or 4 seed for sure.
Yep. All right, everybody. So we are going to sign off tonight. Great show, kind of recapping the Lakers, some injury news, and some trade talk. We'll get this pod up there. If you're still on the live, please hit that subscribe button on the YouTube page. And we will see you guys soon. But until then, the Hoops Rehab team is out. Peace out, guys.
Peace out.